Hey, y'all. Welcome. Welcome back to Casseroles and Tacos podcast. I'm Katie, the Casseroles half of the team.
And I'm Andrea, always bringing you tacos. It's so good to hear or to be here with you guys again. We've really enjoyed the last 2 weeks. We're so thankful that you guys have taken the time to listen to what we have to say, whether it be about our personal journey, our hope for ministry opportunities, or just a little bit about our wardrobe and shoes. We're really glad that you've taken the time to listen to our conversation and join our conversation. That's the good stuff right there, when we can share the conversation with you guys. So, of course, as always, we've got plenty of room at the table for you, and we're just so excited that you're here to join us. Today, we're switching gears a little bit. Last week was definitely, wouldn't you say, a little on the silly side, more fun. We had I think we had such a good time last week, Katie. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
We laughed a lot.
You never know what you're going to get with us, do they? They never know. Got to tune in every week because you never know.
That's funny. That's what my husband says about me every day. I never know what I'm going to get with you. But yeah, exactly. Keep things interesting. So, yes. So we're shifting gears a little bit this week. We have some really, I'm really excited about this episode. So super excited to have the conversation that we're going to have today, and really interested to see where the Lord takes it. Sometimes Katie and I have a blueprint. We kind of know what we're going to say. We know when we're going to say it. And today we're definitely leaving it open to the Holy Spirit to kind of guide things a little more than we even normally do. Right, Katie?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Well, today, I've had, not just today, but the past 2-3 weeks or so, have been really busy for our family. I know those of you that follow us on social media and so forth know we have a lot going on in our family. And also, though, a really big bright spot in our month has been the visit of my cousin and her husband, whom I call my cousin as well. And they are visiting here for a month to get some help with the church up here. They are visiting from Colombia. I want to introduce my cousin Renee, and I would like for her to tell you a little bit about herself, and then we will start talking about why we thought it was such a good idea to have her on and just to share life with her today. And so my cousin Renee, if you would like to welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Renee.
Lots of fun.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you all.
And we're so glad that we could work it out with our schedules, because we had to work that out. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, I would like for you to, go back to your childhood a little bit, talk about, now here at Casseroles and Tacos, obviously we talk about food, but it's very important to us. We can get into that a little bit more in a little bit, a few more minutes, but it's important to just use the table as bringing unity, building community. Mm-hmm. And I know you've got experience with that in your past. I will say Renee and I are the oldest two of our generation. So we have the same great grandparents. So that's right. We've enjoyed keeping in touch for the most part, most of our lives, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, maybe.
Well, I come from a long line, thankfully, of women who have chosen to do a lot of dialoguing over the table and willing to put in the work and the heart. My mom's side, amazing Southern woman, just loved God so much, loved people so much, such a people person. God used her throughout her lifetime, just with dozens and hundreds of people coming over to her house. She was a woman of means for a long time. And with those means, she just partied.
Your grandmother, you mean?
Yeah, my mom's side.
Yeah.
Parties, had pool parties, dinners, Bible studies, just so many people, always inviting people over. And just a real loving spirit and legacy. And I think on my dad's side, there was a lot of food, but it was a more family focused, at least what my experience. Not so much the tons of people coming over, but it's also, a great legacy. And my mom also has been such a wonderful woman of willing to just put all her love there in the food and reaching out to so many people around her. And I didn't do that for a long time. I really was much more of a career woman. And I felt like that was a waste of time to cook or to do anything related to cooking. And the hard knocks of life woke me up and realized I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my mother and my grandmother.
How about that?
So, I don't know if that's just a little introduction of the spirit of the theme.
Yeah. Good.
I love that.
Well, what about your background in, how about where you've lived and how you've had a lot of experiences with different cultures that I personally haven't had. Right. And I think that makes your experience richer, and you can share with us and encourage us in many ways. So could you tell a little bit about maybe where or how you grew up?
Sure. But you gotta put your thinking caps on because it's complicated. Okay, well, get your math out.
I love that.
That's true. Yeah, she was all over the place. Okay, well, here we
go. Well, since I was young, let's say 3 to 18, basically, I grew up in the country of Guatemala within a certain indigenous group called Quiche, which speak a language that's Quiche, which is totally unrelated to Spanish. And they have their own way of dressing, their own customs. And when I was very young, my first few years, kindergarten, first grade, we lived with an indigenous family where we had to walk 2 hours just to get to the house. And I was the oldest of 3 children, and we would walk through there, and we would eat whatever they ate, which was oatmeal for breakfast, and then rice and beans the rest of the day. So it was a great, just that childhood. Obviously, I was a child, so I didn't live in the same way as my parents, but I was very aware, even within, let's say, one country, that how many cultures can be different, like this Latin culture, which were the Spanish speaking, and then the indigenous, which were completely opposite in every way. And the food somewhat as well. And my mom actually had a nutrition center. My father was a medical doctor for those groups. That group was a little bit on the outside of getting medical care, nutritional care. And so my mom was able to help feed many mothers and children for many years.
Wow.
With their own ingredients of food and stuff. And then I went to college in the U.S. I studied international relations, and then I was able to go to junior year abroad in Mexico and finish up my degree. And there I lived in the Mexican culture, which was wonderful. I just loved it. It was very exciting, and all, enjoying the Mexican food. I didn't really learn to cook that food, but I did a lot of street food. I was doing a lot of mission work and spent a lot of time on campuses with just reaching out to people. So I would eat a lot of what Mexicans eat on the run. And I just loved Mexico. To this day, I really even miss it still. Just Mexico City, Mexico. It's just an amazing country and so rich, so much culture, so much depth. And then I went to Colombia, Bogota, after 5 years in Mexico City, had graduated, and I went to Colombia. I was asked to go on some mission work there, mission planting work. And that's where I ended up getting married. And that's where we started our family and live our home base to this day. But I still did not really think about food, but I was thankful for the Colombian food. They eat very balanced meals. I was a little bit, I've gotten quite sick in Mexico with typhoid and stuff. So I was so thankful for food. And my Colombians also love their food. Every place loves their food. So, and then my kids were little and we moved to Venezuela. And that's where I started to get back into the kitchen. In teenage years, my mom really taught me a lot, but I sort of didn't think it was important. And there's where a lot of talks with my husband, I realized he needed me to cook. It was like an important aspect of our marriage, and it was really missing in him because I was delegating every aspect of cooking. I felt it was a waste of time, and it was really affecting a lot of things without me realizing. It wasn't easy to see those things. So I started to realize that's part of what God wants me to do, those daily ordinary tasks. And I've learned so much about how that's a way of serving God, which led to my realization as we were raising our 3 children that God has blessed with several gifts. I decided not to use some of those gifts, and I focused on the gift of hospitality, which is a legacy from my family as well, as my way of serving God and serving my community. So in Venezuela, I started that road. Then I went to Argentina when they were in a economic meltdown, and I was able to help. And we would get together in our church community and take food out to people in the streets who were living on the streets because of the economic meltdown 2002. And then moved back to Colombia 2004 so our kids could grow up in their home country. I mean, they're from the U.S. and Colombia. So we felt like if they grew up in Colombia, they would always be able to get used to anything in this world, like would be willing to be very flexible. But if they grew up in the U.S., they would not have that same flexibility because they would feel like they needed to have certain things to have a good life, maybe like a big house or, some things like that people get used to. Not everybody, but we're in Colombia living in a small apartment with public transportation, and they just learn to love the simple life. And now they're in college, they really see the richness of having that opportunity. Even though they're in college in the U.S., they realize how much they learned at the table, just simple food. I didn't have much money to make it, and just all the amazing people that got to be at the table with us. So,
wow.
That's a little bit.
How about that?
I think that's amazing.
I do too. And Andrea, I will tell you that her children, which are about the same age as our 3 oldest, around those ages, they are phenomenal children. She has a set of twins who are here in college in the States, 2 different colleges. They wanted to go to 2 different ones, right? North Carolina and New York. But they get along very well, love each other, love to, when they can get together and with each other, but we also enjoy when we can have time with them. And then she's got a daughter who's about to graduate as well from college here. And those children are just blessings to anybody who meets them. So Renee and her husband Flavio have certainly established that legacy with those 3 children. And they're just phenomenal children, the whole family. I love what she said about the everyday and ordinary things.
Being service
to God or to others and, worship to God even.
Yeah.
Love that.
There's several things. I mean, just the use of the word legacy was the first thing that really touched me, because that's something, Katie, I know you and I both talk about this a lot, but there's this this thing where, gosh, that legacy that you leave is so important, and the one that you pass on and what you foster in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny. The other thing that you said, Renee, that really struck a nerve with me is it was only a few years ago that I really realized, and this is as somebody who went through 10 years in like a Pentecostal full gospel kind of setting where gifting is talked about a lot and that kind of thing. It never occurred to me until a few years ago when God revealed to me. He pointed it out to me like, hello, I said hospitality is a gift. And
Right.
it was
Mm-hmm.
such an amazing moment for me to recognize that there was so much purpose behind this thing that I loved so much. Because it really does. It makes an impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And, I'm almost speechless just letting that soak in and thinking about that because, I know my husband and I love to show hospitality, and I don't always think of it as a service or gift, a service to other, I don't know. I'm just relishing, just appreciating the idea that it is worship to God and service to others.
Absolutely.
So, and it is a gift. So I love that. Renee's had a rich background, and I appreciate her being here and sharing that with us. Her husband, a couple of weeks ago, Andrea, we visited at the church where he was speaking, and he spoke about reconciliation. And I told Renee I thought he was the perfect person to bring that message to that group. He's a Colombian man, and they're visiting here from Colombia. So he had no agenda. He started out the lesson by saying, I don't know your problems. I don't know. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to bring the message and the message of Jesus. And he had a great message. So he was really a good one to bring that. But, I've talked with you, Andrea, a lot about, and I've talked to some other friends of different, backgrounds from me, different skin color from me. And I really have, as does my husband, we have this sense of almost urgency,
Mm-hmm.
but this sense that he and I want to do something to bring about unity in our own little sphere, our own little world, even if it's just to teach our little children. We have, somebody's just tuning in. We have 6 children. The 3 oldest are adults. So our 6 little children, everybody is not like them. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not the same skin color as they are. Everybody doesn't have the same background. Everybody's not like them, but we can love each other. We can share. We can be kind. And he and I have this great desire to do that. And part of that for us has been, for he and I, we have chosen to make it a point, or we're going to make it a point when we hit the road in our RV, to really search out and seek churches that we visit that aren't full of people that look exactly like us. That's just something we feel strongly about doing. And, but you know what? The trouble is, I don't have this rich background that Renee has. I'm not married to a Mexican American like you are, Andrea. And so I'm just, honestly, this little Caucasian girl sitting in the middle of middle Tennessee. And sometimes I wonder, what on earth can I do? Or I know nothing about different cultures. I don't know how to approach these situations. And I'm not looking to, this has nothing to do with political agendas, political beliefs, even social beliefs or agendas. It's just a matter of learning to love people. And Andrea, you and I have talked about this. We both believe, I think, don't want to speak for you, but we both said we love learning about other people's stories and heritage, and this helps us to love people more. Don't you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah, and I think, and Renee, I'd love to hear your take on this too, because I think that the being in the mission field, I think that there's an amazing ministry opportunity not just learning about other cultures or other people's stories or their experiences or their place in life, whatever season they're in, but sharing a meal with them and breaking bread with them, right? There's this amazing opportunity to open up to each other in that situation. And I totally get what you're saying. And I think even more, and it's the thing that you said that just really got me was the word urgency, because I was just praying this morning, and I can't even begin to tell you now, just to fill in our listeners completely. We Skyped the other day, the three of us, to kind of discuss this possible podcast. And I completely burst into tears when we hung up, because there were so many things that are on my heart that have been affirmed just in that 20-minute conversation with you two. And, one of them is this sense of urgency that there's something being, and I think, Renee, the way you worded it was that correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something along the lines of that God's rising up people for this time, that there's such a division and there's such tension. And I can't speak for all of the country. I can only speak for California because that's where I am. But I can tell you that the tension and the urgency in so many ways, and the division I have never felt at this level. And to have the opportunity to even potentially reach out to people, whether over a meal or just through love or just through conversation at the grocery store, or like you said, visiting a place of worship that's different than what you would commonly experience. That word urgency just like vibrates in my soul, because I feel it. And, our family, and again, Renee, this is something else I'd like to hear from you, but being a multicultural home, it's built in that not everyone is like you, right? Like part of being biracial or bicultural or whatever your experience is, automatically shows you that not everyone lives the same, right? Because you have a varied experience. And I just so badly want for there to be purpose in that, right? To be able to reach across those two sides and where there are divides and serve as a bridge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my husband has helped me a lot with that throughout the years, is to go the Jesus route, which obviously is the bridge, the forgiveness, the love.
Right.
But also, it's one person at a time.
Oh, good point.
And it's investing in the small and not the big.
Oh,
I love that.
And
I do too.
And with our modern day, or maybe long time now, we want to like do something big for God or for humanity, or and it's great, the youth feel that they can do it, and it's a great part of youth. But I feel like, as I've learned throughout the years, I used to feel more that way. But when I started to go this route, I started to go more towards the small, one heart at a time, one family at a time. Having meals means you have to spend a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to make, I'm not talking about amazing things. I mean, but it does, especially even in third world, you have to chop a lot more. You have to do a lot more. It's not that easy, but it means you do less because you're focusing on a smaller amount of people.
Right.
And I've seen actually when I took a big, huge change to become more of a mother from the home, with this stance of reaching out more from the table where my children were involved instead of in the street. It was sometimes not very understood by many women, but I called it in my heart, not an official thing, a silent revolution. And many women my age were not that impacted by it and actually rejected it because they thought I was going backwards maybe in women's roles and things. Mm-hmm. But the women younger than me, it's crazy how many younger women, they're and that have been around throughout the, especially the last 12, 13 years, they've gone different routes than the norm society of, they've really decided to go more this route without even me talking about it. Mm-hmm. It's like this influence of modeling Christian love, Christian life, that you, without saying even a word, can really make a impact. So I feel like even with this urgency, we need to always put it within the context of how did Jesus do things? Mm-hmm. Could he reach so many people? But it's a lot. This part of doing it through food is great because food takes time. Food takes love. Food is little by little. You don't want group at a time, little by little. Mm-hmm. So, but you guys it's amazing what God has put on your hearts, and just to remember that, with all the urgency, I'd encourage you to just, one person at a time, one meal at a time. And as your families go, also at your pace and learning with you. And it's such a amazing way that you guys are wanting to reach out.
I absolutely love that, because as I personally, I can't speak for other people, but personally, when I feel something, when God starts like building something, growing something within you, and he's going somewhere with it, but you don't know where yet. Mm-hmm. And there's that in between, right? There's like the place between when you didn't know it was coming and the victory. There's this place in the middle where he's growing something and you don't always know where it's headed. And definitely. I think that urgency burns in there, right? But I think it's so easy to let the enemy turn it into pressure. And I think that is such a fantastic reminder, Renee, because personally, it's something that I'm so passionate about that it's very easy for me to just like, want to jump all in, but I can't yet because it's not time yet. Mm-hmm. And B, get really discouraged when I don't see these opportunities coming up. And I think it's such a good reminder, because I totally understand what you're saying about ministering from the table and just really trying to like minister to someone's heart and not necessarily an entire community right away or something like that. But I love that like sort of just taking like bite-sized pieces out of this vision, right? And handling them. I mean, excuse the food reference, but I guess that happens around here naturally. But that's just such a fantastic reminder to let that urgency simmer, right? And make it purposeful, but not allow the enemy to turn it into pressure and, something that it isn't.
Yeah.
I know that, I don't want to be too intense, but I just have to say at a young age, I realized what I wanted to be my life to be about when it was over. Mm. And it's guided my life and guided even these type of things. I want people at the end of times to say, I knew something about God because you loved me.
Mm. Oh, wow. Oh.
And that has helped me so much to even do what I do. Always go for the quiet and gentle spirit, so we can get riled up and, and then get anxious. And, I'm always anxious, but, I'm angry, and I don't know, so many things that can come out of us. So I've always tried to go at the speed as far as I can have a gentle and quiet spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's not always easy, but this at the table stuff has really helped me to manage that a lot better. Mm-hmm. It keeps it at I miss that now that my kids are not home. I miss having that more of what I found in my, many years with them at home, and all the table stuff we did with them was more natural maybe than just my husband and I. Now we go more to other people's homes.
Well, and it's okay to be on that end of it.
Yeah.
The receiving end of the table ministry. But Andrea, she does live what she speaks. I mean, gentle and quiet spirit, and she's not like her cousin who sits here. It's full of too much anxiety too many times.
I love
But
it.
I mean, it's a struggle. I mean, I've had to, God has worked so much inside of me, and it's not been easy. And I have a lot of brokenness that has led me to this path of which I am on now and I've been on. And a lot of weakness, and that it's something that's very purposeful.
Intentional. You're living intentional with the goal at the end. And I love that you said that. There are a lot of ladies I know for a fact that I'm thinking of, in particular, that listen to us or who said they listen to us. And they have many, many children at home. And I hope they don't feel this way, but I'm a mother with 6 children, so I have a feeling they do. Sometimes they think, what am I doing? What? I'm doing nothing for the Lord. Here I'm diapering children and nursing children and feeding children and washing clothes. But that's so not true. Mm-hmm. They are serving the Lord. They're serving their family, ministering to their family and to their husbands. And I'm thinking of one lady who told me a few years back, my children were, interestingly, this was at Spanish class. A friend of mine was teaching Spanish to my oldest 2, and another lady and Mom and I were just hanging out and waiting. And of course, I was talking about cooking. I'm always talking about food or cooking. And I said something to her. She said, "Oh, I hate to cook." I thought she would have to pick my jaw up off the floor because I didn't know if there was a mother. I didn't know that was such a thing, that there was a mother who didn't like to cook. I know
plenty of them.
Yeah, well, but what stuck with me, I say that in jest kind of, but anyway, that part, but what stuck with me, I've never forgotten, and we're talking 8-9 years ago that this happened. She said, "But I do it because I love my family and I serve them in that way." So serving your family in that time where you just didn't get your Bible read that day or whatever it is you're wanting to do that you feel like would bring you closer to the Lord, serving the family. And I appreciate that you brought that up, just what we feel like is the everyday. Hey, Jesus did the everyday. He cooked the fish, cooked breakfast, and he healed and he helped the sick. He did the everyday. Well, not that we can heal, but, he just did. Washed ones, he figuratively and literally, just what we would consider the mundane, and it's not in his sight.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking losing my thought for a second. Yeah, well, I'll get it back if there's time.
You get it back if there's time. But also, Renee, I know there's the lady out there, there is probably a lady out there thinking, how can I serve my husband? He is this and that, and he's not what I want him to be, or what I think he should be. Let me say that. He's not a good father, and he does this and he does that, and he goes out and maybe he doesn't come home one night. Or I know there's a true story. Could you relay that to us? Because I think the one about the lady in Colombia.
Right.
I think that story, when I heard it for the first time, heard your husband tell it, I thought, I wish some of our friends could hear that story about reconciliation and how this one particular lady brought it about. The Lord brought reconciliation through her and her acts in her home. Do you mind telling that story?
Yeah. I don't even know who this is. It's a woman that came to see my husband when he was very ill in the hospital, and she was telling her story to him. But I know my husband is very confidential and doesn't tell me things, which is something very good to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it?
And so she and her husband, were doing well, and they were both had decided to love God, turn the Lord's lives over to God, and they were already, a little bit more advanced in years. And then he went the opposite way and started to go back to his old habits, old self, which included lots of drinking, spending their money all weekend, up to 3-4 nights, maybe disappeared drinking. I think she never knew of him being with another woman. I don't think there was any infidelity involved. It was just drinking. Obviously, that's a very heart-wrenching situation and nerve-wracking. Not just because it's upsetting, but you're also worried about his well-being. So I guess she talked to several of her Christian friends, and one of them said to her, "Have you thought what Jesus would do with a drunk man?" And she said she really hadn't thought about it. And this woman said, "Would you think a drunk man needs to eat? And maybe you should have him his favorite food ready when he gets there, and that maybe he would be tired because of all his being out and about and needs his feet washed." So she was terrified. She just thought that was the craziest thing ever. And the Christian woman said, "Just think about it. I mean, just up to you, just something to think about." So she thought about it and decided to apply that. So for several years, every time he would have his drinking spells, she would do that. She would feed him. She would wash his feet. And after about 3 years of this, he decided to leave those ways and turn himself over to God again. And now my husband, who knows who they are, says he just cries. He said every time she would wash his feet, he would just cry, saying, "I do not deserve this." And to this day, he is so thankful, and she just beams that because she went the road of reconciliation and of trying to do things Jesus' way, and she has regained a husband and her own dignity because she tried the road of being humble and forgiving. I mean, I'm not, this is also, I'm not saying I'm advocating this. I'm just saying this is
and it's not easy.
One woman and what she decided to do in her relationship with God.
Right. An example of what that lady did.
Yeah.
True story. And but I mean, humility is not easy.
No.
I mean, it's not. And, well, one thing that Renee's husband Flavio mentioned in his message, he mentioned a quote by Aristotle, and a portion of that quote says, "Whatever we learn to do, we learn by doing." And Renee says the quote is longer than that, and so maybe she could provide that to us. If we or our listeners are interested in that longer quote, maybe we could attach that either to our Instagram page or at the end of this podcast page. But, Andrea, my children learned to play piano by practicing piano. And one comment that Flavio had, Renee's husband, he said, "We learn to be peaceful people by doing peaceful acts." True. We learn to be peaceful people by doing peaceful acts. So, what I've enjoyed, my personal takeaway from this today is just Renee encouraging us to focus on one heart and one person. And you know what? That is being a disciple, making disciples. And it doesn't mean that's not legalistic. Right. You know it? That's not about legalism. That's about love. And this particular podcast, if I didn't say it before, it's not about, this is about differences and needing reconciliation, but not between two particular groups. That's not the point here. It's not, Caucasian versus African American or black versus white or however it's said. It's not about government versus a certain group of people. It's not about any of that. It's not about rich versus poor, or it's about the whole picture. It's about our agenda is not about, focus on particular stressors between particular groups. This is about the whole picture.
Yeah.
So
I remembered what I was going to say before.
Okay, go ahead.
It's sort of a concluding thought.
All
Is
right.
It's a Latin American saying. I think it's pretty much everywhere. It says, "You get to the heart through the stomach."
I have heard that.
Se llega al corazón a través del estómago. So it's very tied in with this theme. How are we going to get to other people's hearts? Through maybe inviting them to our homes and giving them food, but also getting to know their food, because people's food is so important to them. And so I wanted to share that as a last.
I love that. And I love that proverb because, I mean, it's definitely very common in Mexican culture to hear that phrase. And I love it so much. And,
well, love is the best ingredient. That's our tagline here, Renee. And that's our tagline. And that's a great, that fits with today, what we're talking about. Love is the best ingredient.
It really is. And I think I love what you said there, Katie, about it. It's not really about one side or another, or anyone pitted against anyone else or any of that. It's about standing for unity and love, using the gifts that you've been given. And for some of us, it really is. It comes from the kitchen. And I think that there's purpose behind that. It's not just, oh, you're a good cook, or you like to cook, or maybe you like to eat. There's so much to be said about it. And I love what you said, Renee, about knowing their food as well. I think that's been my mission for 20 years, is to learn as much as I possibly can and put it on the table. It's just a beautiful way.
Amen, sister. You are so cool. I feel so connected with you.
I can't believe some of the things you say. Awesome. It's like, it just gives me chills, because I just think, oh my gosh, it's such a unique perspective, and to have someone speak it makes you feel not alone. And there's just something so powerful about sharing something that God has planted in your heart without ever having to say a word. It's amazing. It's amazing to me.
Well, hey, I want to hear, y'all feel connected. Let's connect on a little bit of taco or something before we have to hang up here. I want to hear what y'all have to say about a few foods you may have in common, or that you don't.
Well, when Renee said Mexican street food, my ears perked up. So I have to know what your favorite Mexican street food was.
I think it's the torta. With
tell us what that
those
is.
Layers.
Tell me what that is.
I don't know how many kinds of meats, cheese, and then avocado.
Have you ever had?
So what's a torta? I don't
it's
know.
A sandwich
on a bolillo. Okay. So it's on a roll, right? Called a bolillo. And sometimes it's on a telera, but I think a bolillo is the best way to go. And then it's meat and cheese, or sometimes it's just like, it depends on where you go. But like here, I don't know. I haven't eaten in Mexico in a long time, but they usually have like carne asada, or sometimes it's just ham and cheese. And if it's like carne asada, then it usually has like a little spread of beans on there, maybe some sour cream.
Oh, yeah. An egg.
Yum. I mean, you can put it in
a fried egg.
Okay. A fried egg. Okay. All right.
I mean, there's just lots of ways.
My favorite is actually a pambazo. I don't know. Have you had a pambazo, Renee? It's chorizo con papas in a bolillo with beans, avocado, shredded lettuce, crema oaxaqueña, and lime juice. But like, you dip the whole bun. It's so good. You dip the whole bun in guajillo salsa and fry it. And then you stuff it with all that stuff.
Oh, that's where they eat in Guadalajara.
Yeah. And they eat them usually during Holy Week. They're like street food. I love pambazos. I just made those like 2 weeks ago. But you know what I love? Can I tell you my favorite snack?
Yes.
Tacos de chicharrón. All day.
Wow.
Okay. Help us here. Help this
somebody teased me.
I don't know what
somebody
you're talking about.
Made a comment last week that they'll never eat tacos in California after I told them what's in them. But I want to clarify.
I saw that comment.
It made me laugh.
Girl, I'm with
no.
person.
But I have to clarify. Remember, I said we have carne asada, we have barbacoa, we have al pastor, we have pollo. These are pork and chicken. These are normal things that are just flavored beautifully.
Yes.
But yeah, you can get buche, which is stomach, and you can get tripas, which are not cute. And you can get lengua, which is tongue, and you can get chicharron. But here's the thing. Who doesn't eat pork rinds besides vegans?
Okay,
You eat pork
yes.
rinds?
Okay, I'm
Pork
raising my
rinds are
hand.
delicious.
Yes, ma'am. I have. I mean, like
I love
do. You know, I don't boycott them like I do the chicken livers that we talked about. You know, the first time around. Renee, in the first podcast, I think it's the first one, I mentioned about chicken livers, and I said I used to eat those when I was a little girl, and I didn't know what they were.
Oh, but
My Southern
chicharron is
grandmother
like
would fry them.
my cousin and I. My cousin has this joke.
Mm.
She has this joke. She's a chef, and she grew up here too. So Mexican food is just a big deal to us. And she always says her hashtag that she uses on her chef account always is hashtag body by chicharron because it's such a staple in our diet. We get together, it's terrible. We'll go sit down at the Mexican market and get a cafecito and chicharron, and that's it. Like, we'll just sit there and eat them. It's just like, oh, that's my favorite. That and esquites, the street corn in the bowl. Not so much on the cob, but the one in the bowl.
Oh, yes.
Street corn in a bowl.
Oh,
what's that mean? Help me.
Oh, I don't know, Renee, if you want to describe it.
No, you seem to be amazing for describing food.
See, I can make people want to eat just about anything. Just not talking about California.
Almost.
Yeah, so it's corn that's been simmered in a little bit of butter or fat of some sort. I like butter. With epazote, which is an herb that is unlike any other herb. You could use cilantro, but I use epazote. And then with jalapenos, so it's a little spicy, the corn, and so it has this broth, right? And you put the corn, the hot corn, in a bowl with a little bit of the broth, and then you top it with either mayo. This sounds weird, I know. Or
hello. You had me at mayo, girl.
Or Mexican cream. I'm a Mexican cream fan. I'm more of like a crema oaxaqueña girl. Like the Oaxacan cream is divine. I say it's sour cream's older, more sophisticated sister. So, it's so good. So Oaxacan cream, and then you do queso fresco. Some people use cotija cheese, but I think it smells like feet, so I won't eat it. But queso fresco is my favorite. And then cilantro, which I love and put on everything, and a squeeze of lime. And then I make a salt out of chile piquin, which is a dried chili that has kind of a smoky taste. And you put the chile piquin over the top, and it's just perfection. I know, I want to eat it right now. But that's like the epitome of...
Can you deliver it?
Right? That's like the epitome of street food. And we have vendors here. They go up and down on their bikes selling street corn where I live.
Street corn.
We gotta go visit you.
I won't even have to cook. We'll just go hit all the taco trucks everyone's afraid of now that I talk.
The other thing is the licuados. Like, I have this comfort food thing of Mexico, but it's the strawberry licuado with nuts.
No,
you guys have that
I'm looking it up right now to see if...
Oh, it's a Mexico City thing, I guess. That would get me out of any rut, any emotional.
So tell us about it then.
Well, it's milk with strawberries. Okay. It's like a milkshake with...
Oh, a milkshake.
But not with ice cream.
Okay.
It's like a smoothie.
Yeah. Okay.
And they did smoothies way before smoothies.
That's what I'm thinking. Don't you think? I think Mexican food gets a really bad rap for being unhealthy, but really, so many of the superfoods that we all talk about that are trendy and people get excited about come from Latin America. It's and so many.
Oh, yes. Chia, quinoa.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, in Mexico, they need to work on, it's the vegetables, and they fry a lot. That's not such a good thing about, but other places in Latin America, it's a lot. I mean, the Peru, and they do chia way back. They've always done it. Quinoa and all kinds of seeds. The food is just spectacular. And it's all this stuff that now here it's trendy.
Right.
Where they've been doing it forever.
That's why I always tell people, when you want to go buy something like chia or Ceylon cinnamon, which is a big thing right now, or so many different fruits and vegetables, check out if you have a Mexican market near you, at least here, because, other places might have like a Latin market or something else, but we have Mexican markets here. That's where you go. Chia at Whole Foods is $8.99 a pound. It's $1.99 a pound here because it's part of the diet. It's a normal thing. It's not a specialty item. Yeah. But I just, I was looking at the licuado. It looks like, it kind of reminds me of like an aguas frescas, but with milk instead of water.
Yeah. Well, y'all sufficiently made me hungry.
We got to go hit the refrigerator and get some leftovers
I love
out
it.
there.
Hard pizza? I don't know. Well, thank you for being here, Renee. I appreciate it. And thanks, Andrea, for allowing me to bring my cousin Renee along for the ride today.
I just loved it. Renee, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been a real treat.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. Well, wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
And all those tacos and casseroles and everything else.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thanks again to our listeners for hanging out for this special episode. So awesome. It was so wonderful. And I'm just so excited to hit publish on this one, Katie. But thank you so much. Good. We are happy to answer any questions that you have. Also, I know we covered a lot in this episode and there may be questions or comments, and we are super open to continuing this discussion. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our hearts on this topic. And we just hope that if you take anything away from this conversation, it is that love truly, truly is the best ingredient. So you guys have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.